Hey folks, this is Eric Walls, field agronomist with SunAg. This week on Fieldside Chats, we're going to take a look at cover crops. So the first point we want to cover with cover crops today will be with weed suppression. So we have cereal rye, we have tillage radishes, and turnips out here, planted last fall. Basically, the only thing that was overwintering was the cereal rye. So it's no-till. You see a lot of corn stalks out there as well. With that mat of residue, that helps suppress weeds both by shading. It competes for soil moisture and nutrients, and it also produces phytotoxins. Well, phytotoxins are released shortly after termination of that cover crop for about 10 to 14 days. What they do is they initiate the production of pathogens, specifically like root diseases, so your fusarium, maybe Phytophthora rhizoctonia. The same diseases that can inflict our cash crops, corn and soybeans, also can affect newly germinated weeds. So those seedlings get infected with that and they die off. A way we could manage water hemp. With cereal rye, we could have that planted in the fall, maybe early spring, wait to terminate that until maybe the second or third week of May on average. And the reason I want to wait till then, if we're using this as weed suppression, I want to wait till then is because we're going to see the bulk of our water hemp germinating that latter part of May, early part of June. So if we terminate this the second or third week and those phytotoxins are released into the soil, well, that's going to coincide about that same time as when water hemp's going to be germinating. So we're going to kill off those seedlings without the use of a herbicide potentially. So the second point that we're going to talk about today on cover crops is erosion control. But what I want to show is having roots in the soil longer throughout the year is a great way to keep that soil in place. We lose soil, we've lost fertility due to the loss of clay particles. So our clay particles hold our ammonium, our potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and a few others. They hold those in the soil. So when we lose clay particles, either to runoff, if we lose it through wind, we don't want to be going up and down our major highways or interstates and seeing dust storms that could be prevented with less tillage or with the use of cover crops. So the better our soil aggregation, the more macro and micro pores we'll have, which allow more water to be held in there, more air space, which is good both for the roots and an opportunity for the roots to go through those pores. So that soil breaks apart pretty easily. I got pretty decent granular structure here. We had about 3 inches of rain on this, so that'd have been Saturday. So this has just been 4 days ago. So seeing some pretty loose soil, which is great. Got some nice vertical roots going straight down, which breaks up compaction for us. Again, good soil aggregation around a lot of those roots. I like cereal rye just because of that. With the fibrous root system, I like that better than just a tap root. I definitely like to get a strong mix of cereal rye ahead of beans, just to have that fibrous root system out here to break up more at that top 5 or 6 inches. So I realize cover crops don't have a fit for everyone. Recently, so I spread some seeds out here on Friday before this rain. So you can see the areas where it dropped and the residue caught it immediately and it stayed in place. In any of the areas where I had no residue, wherever the water flowed, it took all the seeds with it. It deposited them in one spot. So basically it's not doing me any good versus these. Same with where the soybeans are at, the seed hit the plant and maybe deflected down, so you don't have as much below the cash crop, which is good or bad, I guess. I don't want to compete a lot with the cash crop roots at this point, but at the same time, it'd be nice to get a more even distribution. The last couple falls have been a challenge with getting moisture. So in 24, I seeded everything with a drone, like mid to late August, and it didn't rain. So the seed sat out there for probably 45 days or better before it got decent rain to take off. So I lost it. I lost a lot of time that I could have been getting both root growth below ground and vegetative growth, which is what I'm after. A way I could, um, you know, manage that differently. I could wait till the crop's out, wait till my cash crop's out, go out there and broadcast it with a floater and maybe lightly till it in, get some seed to soil contact, or just use your planter or your drill to get good seed to soil contact. With beans, you're going to want to look at probably, if you're going to fly them on, putting it on right when the leaves start to drop. So they're yellow and they're starting to drop, probably put them on then. With corn, it's a little easier to tell when you're starting to get some sunlight penetrate into the soil. So you can walk out there and physically see, 10-20% of the soil is getting sunlight. So last thing I want to talk about with cover crops would be when you want to terminate or making that determination. If you're using it for weed suppression, you got to wait a little bit longer, specifically if you're going after water hemp. Some issues with waiting that long. If it's a drier spring, that cover crop's also using moisture. It's also using nutrients, so it's taking that away from your cash crop. So one of the two cover crops that I have in the agronomy plot this year is buckwheat. It has a low carbon to nitrogen ratio, so it's going to break down very quickly once it's terminated. There are two reasons why I have buckwheat in the agronomy plot this year. One is that it releases mild acids that help it break down phosphorus to make it more available for the next crop. And the second reason is because I have honeybees on site. So I was hoping that it would be a good nectar or pollen source for the honeybees. So the second cover crop on site is hairy vetch, and it's a very viney cover crop species. It needs some support. It can overwinter in central Illinois, but it's going to need probably like a cereal rye or maybe some oats out there to help it grow up, even though the oats will be winter killed, but it needs some kind of support. It is another cover crop species with a low carbon to nitrogen ratio. It fixes nitrogen, so it's a legume, which is good for like a corn crop the following year or wheat. So maybe some issues with hairy vetch. It can attract soybean cyst nematodes, so it's a host for that, and root knot nematodes. So if, that's something to consider before you plant this kind of a cover crop. I would broadcast this seed at maybe 20 to 30 PLS, which is pure live seed, so 20 to 30 pounds of pure live seed, or if you're going to drill it, maybe 15 to 20 pounds of pure live seed. So the final cover crop I'm going to talk about is the tillage radish. Tillage radish, again, is another cover crop with a low carbon to nitrogen ratio. It's a good nitrogen scavenger. It tracks earthworms, so that's very beneficial. And it's another cover crop. It's a cover crop species that you can seed at a pretty low rate. So broadcast maybe 5 to 6 pounds pure live seed, and if you're going to drill it in, maybe 3 to 4, even less if you're going to mix it with some other brassicas or grasses. Well, folks, that wraps up this week's edition of Fieldside Chats. If you have any questions about cover crops, feel free to reach out to us. We have seed suppliers, both locally and out of state. We can source some stuff and possibly get it applied by drone, airplane, or you can even do it after your crops are taken out. If you got any questions, please reach out. We'll see you next time.